Alrighty, folks. I am going live and I'm double checking to make sure that everything is showing up properly as it should. I am multicasting in different places. So we're going to be on Facebook at Tanya Smith Online at the Mindfully Marketing page. That's the best place to actually get your chat comments showing up on screen. If you're here, feel free to wave and say hello if you're here live with me. Also, I want to ask this question. Let me put the question out for today. And the question is this: are you an introvert? And if so, is there anything about your personality that right now is holding you back from doing more live video? We're going to explore that topic and talk a little bit about how to overcome any obstacles. If you are an introvert and you feel that there are certain things about your personality that are holding you back from doing more live stream videos. All right, I'll be back in just 1 second. Let me go ahead and get my starter video kicked off. Alrighty, folks, again, welcome. I'm Tanya Smith with Get Noticed with Video at getnoticedwithvideo.com. I'm double checking one more time to make sure that you're there with me. I am seeing a little error message here when it comes to my restream chat. So for some reason, if I can't see your chat or your comments, I'll be checking in multiple places to make sure that I'm able to respond to you in all the different places. So I'm broadcasting on Twitter, we're broadcasting on YouTube, we're also broadcasting on Facebook Live, but I want to be able to respond to you in all of those different places. So I do have it set up such that I should be able to see your comments from any of those places. If you are watching live with me, just give me a little wave emoji or say hello and let me know where you're from. I do know I have a few folks that are on live. I am really thrilled about this topic because it actually is a topic that is near and dear to me because I happen to be one of those 30% of people who happen to be an introvert in the world. So we've read statistics about the fact that there's anywhere from 25 to 40% of the people in the world are made up of introverts. But I want to talk a little bit about what exactly that means. What is an introvert? Because I think people tend to go automatically to the idea that being an introvert means you are shy. And that's not what we're talking about. So I'm going to give you the difference between introverted people versus shy people. There is a slight difference that does make a big difference when it comes to getting results and doing life. So let's talk a little bit about that. All right, I have a few folks that are on. Just give me a wave and say hello. If I can't see your comment, I know that there's something wrong. But just, if you can, give me a little hi. I'm looking right now and still seeing some issues there. All right, we're going to keep it moving because I want to make sure we get this done in about 15 to 20 minutes. And what I will do is manually, there's my Jackie. Hey, Jackie. Jackie gave me a wave to let me know that she's there. So we can see you now. Awesome sauce. There's my wave from Jackie. Hey, girl. Awesome. Okay, for those of you who are joining, again, the topic is going to be about 5+ live streaming tips for introverts. So let me talk a little bit about what an introvert is. So an introvert is basically, first I'm going to give you the definition, right? So this is the Latin definition. It's derived from a Latin word, and the Latin word is introvertere. Introvertere. So intro means to the inside. Vertere means to turn. So to turn to the inside, to turn within. And some of the definitions that I looked up said to turn within with spiritual contemplation. So it's about, if I gave this in layman's terms, because I've been an introvert all my life, and many of you who are watching probably are too, which is why you're watching, because you were looking for these tips. But it's about us gaining energy from within. So the social interaction that we have with outside forces can tend to be not a time drain, but a drain and a strain on our energy. Whereas when we need to kind of recoup um, re-energize ourselves, we go within. We get into a moment of solitude. We get quiet with a book we might be reading, or we just get quiet, period. Right? There's a couple of different common signs. And if you're an introvert, excuse me, if you're an introvert, I want you to just share one thing about you that makes you know, or that other people should know, that tells them that you're an introvert. Here's a few of them that I'll share that I wrote down about myself. Being around people, especially when it's large crowds of people, tends to be draining. So going back to that energy, you enjoy solitude. I tend to enjoy being quiet, and I love to just sit down and read a good book or take a long, luxurious bath instead of a really fast shower because it's just my quiet time. I even love to go to the movies. The reason why I love to go to the movies is because I don't have to talk. I can just be silent and watch whatever's on the screen. My phone is turned off, my watch is turned off. There's no other outside interaction other than just the movie itself. So I love the movies. Um, we tend to appreciate a small circle of close friends. Now, that doesn't mean we're antisocial. It just means we appreciate that um, depth, right? That depth of interaction with individual people versus this large crowd of people. I want to give a story about that in a second, a personal story. People may say that it's hard to get to know you. Maybe that's a sign. Um, you love to learn by watching. And this is kind of important, especially when it comes to different types of groups. When you think about social groups such as Facebook groups that people tend to join, um, a lot of people look at us or call us lurkers. Hey, Michelle, it's good to see you there. Let me move this third title out of the way so I can make sure I'm seeing everybody. Um, People tend to call us lurkers, but it's really just that we love to watch and to process the information internally versus constantly kind of going back and forth and having the conversation and the debate online. So it does make it hard when you are an introvert and you draw and attract a lot of introverts and you're creating a Facebook group. It could be a little quiet in there. I've experienced that, and some of you have too. Another thing that I would say would be a sign, and I'm looking for your signs too. So if you have signs that tell people who you truly are, or if you're an introvert and this is one thing that people should know about you, put that into the comments. But you typically like jobs and careers that offer some level of independence. So these are different ways to identify or spot an introvert. Now, the difference between someone who's introverted and someone who's shy. Here's the clear difference. A shy person, a shy individual, is someone who is fearful of social interaction. I know I've met some people that are in that category, and that's not me. I'm introverted, and introvert actually makes the choice that, you know what, I just don't want the social interaction at this moment or in this time. But it's not that we're fearful or afraid to have that social interaction. So there are people who tend to be painfully shy, have a real challenge when it comes to interacting socially. People who are introverted, like us, we have an opportunity to be able to not necessarily take the fear, because it's not fear that it is, but to take some of those things that we're using as roadblocks and excuses and turn those around. And that's what I want to talk about with the 5+ tips, because when it comes to live streaming, the reason why this whole introvert versus extrovert thing is key when it comes to doing live video is that we all have to put systems in place. We have to put a unique set of systems in place that might be different from people who are extroverted, who crave that social interaction and love to be engaged in constant conversation. So I kind of liken it to this. I'll share this. One of my daughters, we were talking the other day about how dad was teaching her to drive, and there were these orange cones, right, that he put into the road, into the space where she was going to be driving. And the purpose for the orange cones was to try to help to give her some guidance, right? But it was also to test her. And so Some of the orange cones she was able to maneuver through and she was fine. Others she ran right over. They became obstacles. She pushed through them and moved them out of the way. Um, but when you think about live video, I want you to think about some of the orange cones that we have to put in place as introverts in order to make sure that we have that guidance. And so that's where I'm coming from when I share with you these 5+ tips. So my question for you is this, for those of you who are watching live, which one? And yes, Marcia said, I am both. Here's what I'll tell you. The myth is that people fall into the extreme of one or the other. But the truth is, and I've studied this at great length because I'm certified as a Myers-Briggs facilitator for any of you who have taken the MBTI. And so I used to do that very often in my corporate role. The myth is that it's to the extreme, that you're going to fall into one or the other category. But the typical tendency is that we all fall somewhere near the middle. And what ends up happening is that we lean a little bit more on one side versus the other with our interactions and behaviors. So you'll find that some people have a little bit of an easier time, even though they know they tend to get their energy from within and re-energize when they're in a crowd of people. Afterwards, after I get off of a stage and I've been talking to a large audience, I'm pooped. Like it's taken everything out of me. It might have been a 20 or 30-minute conversation or talk that I gave, but afterwards I'm completely exhausted. And for the rest of the day, I try not to have appointments because I know that I won't be at my best until I get that chance to refresh. That's being introverted or more leaning towards the introverted. When you are gaining that energy from going out with friends, so for New Year's Eve, I've got friends who absolutely just do not miss a party on New Year's Eve. Because for them, that is absolutely the number one way to be able to get energized and ready for the new year. For me, I like to sit in quiet contemplation with my girls and create vision boards. We've been doing that for more than 13 years. Every now and then we'll get talked into going to a party, but for me, that is very draining. But there are those of us who can fall into both worlds and do it easily. So what I want to talk about is these orange cones that may or may not help you. I think they'll help you if you put some of these things in place when you're doing live stream videos, because you want to create some guidance, but you also want to give yourself a little flexibility to run over the cones when you need to. Okay? Just depending on your unique personality, because each of us is different. We have a different set of filters and experiences, but we can all still do live stream video and do it effectively as long as we adopt practices and habits that are going to help us, right? So some of the 5+ things that I'm going to share with you right now may be effective for some, and then others may be the nuggets, the golden nuggets for other people that are listening and watching this. Okay. All right. So tip number 1. And before I do that, I'm going to ask one more question. I want you to put your answer in the comments. What do you tell yourself that stops you from doing video? And specifically live video, since that's the topic that we're talking about is live streaming. What one thing are you telling yourself that keeps you from doing it? And it may not be today, but maybe a couple of weeks ago. You were thinking about going on live and you stopped yourself. What was the one thing you were telling yourself? I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. All right, let's dive into the list. Okay, here we go. Number 1, and this one is going to sound like, oh my God, I know this, but I don't do it all the time. Be yourself at all times. Be yourself at all times. What do I mean by this? I mean, don't try to be someone else when you're on live. I remember getting some advice when I first started doing live streaming about pepping up and you need to get more excitable and you need to be this and go watch these 2 people because I think they're great on live stream. You should take away things from them, take away pointers from them. And when I watched these people, I knew that that was not me. I'm not a jumpy person or a hyper person. I can still get a point across, but I have to do it on my own terms and in my own way. So I want you to embrace the fact that you are who you are. And as an introvert or an extrovert, whoever you are and whatever you're doing, if you fall in the middle, if you don't fall in either category, be yourself at all times when it comes to your live video. Because the more transparent you are, the more that's going to really make that emotional connection with the people that you're talking to as you're speaking into the camera. Tip number 2, schedule it. I know you're like, oh my God, said I was going to do this. I see some answers in there, Michelle. Yes, I'm going to come back to that. Schedule it and then announce it. So the one thing that has made me a lot more consistent over the past year when it comes to live stream videos is making sure that it's on the calendar. As I always say, if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. So I made the decision that I was going to do live video. I wanted to commit to it. The best way for me to get past those excuses I was telling myself about, you know what, I haven't even told anybody about it. They're not expecting me to be on. Maybe I just won't go on today. It's about removing that type of talk, right? When you calendar it and put it on a date and time and you tell people about it, then you're going to be held more accountable than you would if you simply kept it to yourself. And especially for those of us who are a little bit more introverted than extroverted, it's really important. It's really key for us to remember that we need to take that opportunity because we have to remember our why we're doing it. And the why we're doing it typically is going to be about serving other people. Whatever your message is to the world, whatever people need to hear and to know, they're learning it from you. You're the only person that can deliver the message in the way that you're delivering it. So if your service is your why, if the reason why you're getting on live is so that you can broaden your audience, increase your reach, and be able to reach more people so that you can impact lives and transform them, right? If this is your goal, if this is your why, schedule it and then announce it and get it done. Tip number 3, this is for us. But again, it can apply to anyone. I just think it's even more relevant to us, and I'll share why. Tip number 3 is to speak to one person at a time. Not 100 people, not 150, not 25. Speak to a single person every time you go on live. Why? I remember when I first started out in business, and even before I really felt accomplished enough to call myself an entrepreneur, right? So I don't know, around 2007, 2008-ish, somewhere around that time, and I was still kind of putting my toe in the water, and I was doing a few other things, some direct sales marketing and things like that. I would go to these networking events, these offline, I'm talking about in-person ones, right? Where you actually go to a physical building, not online. I would go to these events, and I remember one of the tips was to just talk to a lot of people. And so initially what I would do is I would grab all these business cards and I would force myself to try to engage in these different conversations, and I'd walk away with a truckload of business cards of people that I would never ever speak to again. We never had a real connection. We were talking so fast and it was so quick and there were so many people that I didn't even really know who I was talking to. And honestly, didn't care. Just wanted the numbers because that's what I was told I needed to do. Well, at some point, a light bulb moment came on for me. And I realized I don't have to be the same person that this other person who was my director at the time. I don't have to be like her. I need to be myself. That was tip number 1. I need to operate in this space as myself. And myself loves and enjoys to have more in-depth conversations with people. So what I did is I decided instead of building wide, I would build deep. By that, I mean that in the conversations that I would have with people as I was doing this networking thing, I might pick 1 or 2 people at the event. Not 20, not 30, but 1 or 2 people that I would eye in the audience, and I would approach them and have a really deep conversation and ask them about themselves and find out more about what they do. And maybe or maybe not, they're going to make a good partner. But they remembered the next time I came to that event who I was. They remember what I did. They thought of referrals, even if they weren't operating in that space. They thought of referrals that they could send my way because we got to really know each other. And so what I'm saying is with video, sometimes just like it is with offline, when you're talking to people at brick and mortar businesses and offices, sometimes it's easier to talk to a single person than to try to create the breadth, right? So if you want to do more live video as an introvert, one of the best tips that I can give you that I've adopted is that even if it means to have a picture or an image of a person right behind your camera, which I teach a lot of my clients to do, by the way, have that avatar or that brand persona, as some people call it. Have that single picture of a person behind your camera and talk to them. It's going to make things so much easier for you. I promise. Just try it. All right. Tip number 4. And I'm checking to make sure we don't have any questions. All right. Tip number 4 is give yourself a little buffer time before and after your video. Because if you're getting your energy from within and you've had a long day, I come from a corporate background, like I told you, so I still work in that corporate space. When I come home from a very long day and it's been grueling and there's a lot going on, what I have to do is to create that space and time before the live video, before the camera goes on, to get myself refreshed. What that may mean for me, it may look a little different for you. But for me, that does mean having some quiet time. That means turning off the phone so I'm not getting a bunch of notifications and text alerts. That may mean having on my camera, not my camera, but my candle. Right now, I have my crystal salt lamp because it just gives me comfort. All of these different things to help you refresh and re-energize before your video. And then after the video, have that downtime. If you do these things and apply these tips that I'm sharing with you, I promise you it's going to change your life. It's going to change the way that you do live video. And it will take away the excuses that you've been making for yourself for getting on live stream. All right, number 5, use a checklist. There's nothing better than, okay, remember I was talking about different characteristics of people who are introverts, and I talked about how we love to watch. Sometimes we love to watch so much that we don't necessarily engage in the conversation. Watching is because we like to see people doing or demonstrating exactly what it is we need to do. Many of us who are introverts, not all, so everything that I'm saying to you, remember there's always a disclaimer. There may be a few of you this doesn't apply to, but many of us in that space tend to like process and system and to watch and see how things are done. So if that is the case for you, creating for yourself a checklist of the things that you need to do before and after your video will definitely help to get better results because you'll feel more prepared. You'll feel like, you know what, I've got my step-by-step process. It's ready to go. It's a template that I'm following. All I've got to do is replace the content with whatever the topic is that I'm talking about right now, and then go. And so that, again, has made a world of a difference. I use something called Process Street to create. It's created my entire system, and it's one of the things that I work with my clients on now. But it's created my entire system from start to finish of what I need to do in order to create the live stream video and also to repurpose that content and monetize that content. So having that checklist is like a safe zone for me and making sure that it's up and ready to go, as well as having that skeletal script that I've talked about in past videos, meaning you have an outline, even if it's just bullets of what you're going to talk about. So I'm looking and scanning through to make sure that I'm covering the different points by taking a look at my script. I use something called Session Labs for that. Now, I've also used another tool called Workflowy. I know a lot of you like to know, what are the tools that she's using? So Workflowy is a free tool that you can use to create quick and easy bulleted outlines. Session Lab is more of almost like an instructional design tool, But I've used that because it allows me to create a template for courses, for my live streams, for the webinars that I do, and I can simply create a new copy of the template and plug in content based on that date and what the changes are for the topic that I'm going to be discussing. So it's a really handy tool. But use some form of a checklist or process. That's tip number 5. Now, I promised I was going to do some bonus tips, so I'm going to give you those really quickly, and then we'll get ready to wrap. Bonus tips are this. As an introvert, as a person who does not consider herself to be one that really is so concerned with outside appearance and material things, but I do like things to be neat. I like them to look professional. Find yourself an outfit or a few outfits that make you feel comfortable and confident. You do not have to be J-Lo every time you get on live stream video. You don't have to have a new and fancy outfit or top or earrings and necklace. Just make sure that you're feeling confident and comfortable in what you wear, because that can be a distraction too. If you feel like every time I get on video, I've got to have a different change of clothes, that's just a roadblock. That's just a mental roadblock. That's a self-limiting belief that you've told yourself that really is not truth. So get past that. Find yourself a nice black shirt because black shows up really well on camera for just about every skin tone. And it helps to emphasize and focus on your face and what you're talking about versus people scanning everything else, right? But get comfortable and confident with an outfit or a few outfits that make you feel good so that you don't have to worry about clothing when you get on live. Another bonus tip, you're going to face obstacles and things will go wrong. So just know that. So I'm giving you truth. Things will go badly. I have sat here on this microphone right here with this video camera right here and recorded an entire 30 minutes and I was on mute. And I'm checking right now because I'm like, am I on mute? But I did see that some of you said hi. So just know that things will go wrong and you can push past that. This applies to anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now. I don't care if you're introverted, extroverted. Things are going to go wrong with your live stream videos. It's okay. You'll bounce back. The important thing is that you'll bounce back. Get up, come back on the next week or whenever your schedule is telling you this is when you're going to be committed to doing it. Get back up, get on the horse, and ride again. You might fall off. That's okay. Dust yourself off, get back up, and do it again. Because the more you do it, the easier it will get. And that does not make a promise to you that the more you do it, the less mistakes you'll make. No, because you'll still make mistakes and things will happen, but you've got to push through it. And then the final bonus tip, and I've already said this one, is to remember your why. Why are you doing this? What is the message? Who are you serving? And are you doing them a disservice if you're not recording? Not recording live, if you're not on live stream, if you're not doing consistent video, are you leaving somebody behind? So those are my tips for the evening. I'm double checking to see if we have any questions. I see some things in here. So things that are holding people back: setup, makeup, and making mistakes. Yes. And you absolutely, all of those different things can be valid concerns. But in the end, what I want to encourage you to do is to push past the fear and to know that it's going to be imperfect and still get it done anyway. And if you need a little help with that, I do have resources available, so reach out. At getnoticedwithvideo.com, I actually have just recently redone our on-camera confidence course. It is now an on-demand course that you can scoop up. But you're also welcome to set up time with me if you need to do a discovery call. So go to my website at getnoticedwithvideo.com and you'll see a ton of different resources, some blog posts, and other things that will help you to get over the fear of doing video so that you can get noticed and drive and attract a steady stream of new leads and clients, because that's what's happening for me, and I want those wins for you too in your business. Okay? If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them here. I'm getting ready to wrap right now, but I will come back and take a look, especially for those of you who are watching the replay. And that does happen a lot. So if you're watching the replay, type in hashtag replay for me. Leave me a comment or two or a question, and I'll make sure to respond. Hope you have an amazing rest of the week and the weekend, and I am looking forward to seeing you back here next week. All right, take care, everybody.